Wait, do I keep the headphones on? No.
What do you mean?
Wait,
You can do whatever you want. I like the hair with the headphones. Looks good. Sam Ramsdell, Samantha Ramsdell.
Hi.
We're starting, by the way.
We're starting.
Got it. You see yourself right there in the mirror. You look great. If you want to take it out, feel free.
Yeah.
We just got to make sure the levels are, up to the standard. So what's up? You're coming from, where do you live? Westchester?
I live in Stanford.
Stanford. Where'd you go to high school? Because I went to UConn and I have a number of friends who are from Stanford.
I actually am from Maine originally.
Okay.
I only moved to Stanford probably like 6 years ago.
I went to Camp Caribou in Maine.
You did?
You've heard of that camp?
Yeah.
Oh, what'd you go to, Manitou? Is that like the all-girls camp? Do you know about that one too?
No, I was at chorus camp.
Oh, okay.
I was a chorus camp.
How do you know about Camp Caribou?
Because Maine's a small state, and I feel like actually one of my friends used to go there, like growing up. I wouldn't say friends, like someone I went to high school with.
Yeah, it was terrible. I went there for 3.5 weeks and I never went back. But also, like, I never was good at the sleepaway camp thing.
Yeah,
like I went to sleepaway camp for 2 weeks when I was 12 years old, like tennis camp, cried every night. And then like the instructors were trying to give me my Adderall, take it every day. I'm like, I am not taking my Adderall. I'm not the same when I take my Adderall because I was just a zombie, which like every kid nowadays that takes Adderall, 11, 12, 13, 14, they just shut off their personality. And for me to do a little bit better in school. Totally. I was like a D+ student, maybe made me a C student, but I had no personality. But you were a nerd. You went to chorus camp up in Maine?
Yeah, it was a chorus camp. I was going to like theater camp and chorus camp. I was like a musical theater.
I love that.
Loser.
Where'd you go to college? You played the trombone? I played the trumpet, but only for a year. And my dad bought like a new one for me, and he was so pissed when I stopped doing it. Yeah, he's like, we got to sell this thing.
Well, it was like one of those things too, where like my family didn't have a ton of money growing up, so like it was like an old, like whatever instruments they had left over, like you could have, and like the only instrument
your school
left
gave
was
it to
trombone.
you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I played the trombone. So yeah, I was definitely like a musical theater loser back then. But
where'd you go? And where'd you go to college?
I went to
asking
UNH.
you a million questions at a time. UNH. Okay, so I went to UConn. So UNH pretty close.
Totally. I looked at UConn too. It was UConn and UMass. I mean, all the big U's. But
okay, all in like the Northeast.
But have you been to UNH before?
No.
No, never been.
It's
the
great.
campus is really nice. Yeah.
Cool, like
it's
country.
really
like, is it in the middle of nowhere, like UConn?
Kind of. It's near Portsmouth. Like,
I've heard of that.
Have you been to New Hampshire at all?
No.
No?
I would like to go to that. You know that tournament that they do in New Hampshire, the grass court tennis tournament.
Oh,
do you know what I'm talking about in July? Yeah. My bad. I was just like, that tournament that they go to? You're like, what, the chess tournament? No, they have one at the, that's in Rhode Island, dude. Rhode Island Hall of Fame.
Similar.
Yeah, Rhode Island and New Hampshire. Okay, so you grew up in Maine.
Yep.
And then you went to New Hampshire. And then how did you end up in Stanford?
Corporate job. They moved me down there to Stanford.
So are you moving out of Stanford anytime soon, moving to the city?
I always said that. I was like, I'll move to the city, once I'm finally done with corporate to get closer to everything. But I actually love living in Stanford because it's not far. I mean, you guys went, you went to Bridgeport.
With Hannah Brenner. That's, by the way, that's how Samantha and I met. Hannah, if you're watching, hello. Look at this wonderful friendship you set up. So we did a show in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I opened for Hannah, and you were featuring as well. We had an amazing time.
Yeah, that was really fun.
So Stanford, and you're also married, too.
I'm not married, but we've been together, like, forever. Okay. It's like one of those things.
And you guys live together, though, right?
We live together.
Okay, Stanford, and I see that you're headlining a bunch of shows. So is the move going to happen soon to New York, or you're staying put?
Like, I was trying to see, like, I was waiting for all the craziness to somewhat be, with COVID. It was like, we were looking at places at one point, but then I don't know if I'm not really a city girl, like being born and raised in Maine in like a small town. Like, I kind of like being outside and being able to leave the city at some point, like it is a pain in the ass, but it's really from Grand Central to Stanford. It's a 45-minute train ride.
Do you ever drive into the city?
I do. Yeah, and I do have a car, but like I just would rather, because like on the train you can do work. Like I'm normally like just like on my phone, like getting stuff done.
So how often are you coming into the city now?
Well, now probably back to like 3-4 nights a week, days, nights, something like that. Mm-hmm. Maybe even more now, especially now that everything's rampant and roaring.
Yeah, and you're headlining all over the place. I see you're doing a show with Shannon Fiedler. Shannon, who was on the podcast a few episodes ago. If you guys haven't seen that episode, check that out. But your headline, where is that show? It's in Connecticut?
No, actually
Wall Street Theater.
She's from Connecticut, too.
Okay, how do you guys know each other?
So there was basically a booker. I've seen her stuff on TikTok. Like I didn't know she did stand-up comedy until the guy who was booking was basically like, you know, I see you guys both do TikTok. I mean, you guys both do TikTok and you both are from Connecticut and do stand-up. You know, it'd be like a perfect, obviously, like similar age, kind of probably similar target audience, I would say. So I was like, oh, shit, I didn't even know she did stand-up. Like, yeah, that would be perfect. Makes sense, obviously. She's hilarious.
Yeah.
But I also, you know, I didn't know she was so close and was from Connecticut, too, and all that jazz. So it was like, that would be a perfect
Amazing. So when is that and where? Shout it out.
Yeah, so Laugh Boston, it's May 23rd.
So that's I guess the week before Memorial Day?
Yes,
okay.
week before, which is crazy. I can't believe May's next
I
month.
know, it's amazing. You walked over here, you're talking about how hot it was. It's getting a little bit hot now.
I did not expect it. Yeah, it's like 70 degrees, stunning. This is like the day we
This
live
is the
for.
day. Yeah. This is the day. It was like raining this morning earlier.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, it's going to be
Now it's
crappy,
beautiful.
but now it's gorgeous.
So let's talk about your life,
Yes,
Samantha.
please.
Do you go by Sam or Samantha?
Sam normally.
Sam.
Yeah,
okay.
it's easier.
Right. Understood. That's like Ted, Teddy, whatever.
Right, yeah, right.
So just starting your comedy career and then, you know, your TikTok presence, how did everything kind of just begin for you? You know, like you moved to Stanford after college, and then just take us from there.
Yeah. So very long story short. So like ever since I was, you know, a little girl, I wanted to be on Broadway. Like I wanted to be an entertainer, performer. You know, that was my dream because I was from Maine. Like I felt like that was the only like thing I knew to like be a performer was to be on Broadway, you know, in a way. And obviously this is way before social media.
Well, you had dreams of just like going to New York and being on Broadway.
Yes, like I always wanted to live in New York City,
Right.
wanted to be on Broadway. And of course, my parents, like being from a small town in Maine, were like, absolutely not. You know, like that's not a real job. You know, you're going to school and getting a degree. So, you know, I was like, all right, well, went to UNH, got a business degree. But I'd always like loved singing, loved doing comedy and stuff. But it was like, you know, for fun, it was like it's never actually going to happen and like be a real job.
Did you do any theater at college when you were there?
I did like UNH wasn't a huge theater school, but I actually was in a band, so it was like kind of we would do like some little like local small gigs. It wasn't like and it was like cover songs and so nothing crazy. And plus like, you know, I was trying to be like cool back then, and I really, you know, I was like I didn't think there would ever be, you know, a chance for me to ever be able to do really what I loved. Like I was kind of like, you know, I just got to do the 9-to-5 thing, you know, like society and my parents are telling me to do. So flash forward, I get moved to Stanford a couple years after college for this corporate job. And I was like, oh my God, so fun. I always wanted to live outside New York City. This is like perfect. Yeah. And, but I hated corporate America. I gained like 60 pounds. Like I was almost 200 pounds at one point.
Wow. Well, you look amazing. Like, no way. So you were just sitting a lot?
Well, yeah, I was just in my car. Like I was driving around like I was like in corporate sales. Drive to sit. Yeah, in traffic all day. I was smoking like 2 packs of cigarettes a day.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, I was like, like you would not recognize me like 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
Yeah, you would be like, yeah.
So
like,
you were working that corporate job for how many years then?
So that was like, yeah, like 6-7 years. 7. Well, I don't know, how old am I? So like I graduated college 22. So I'm 32 now. So and I quit my job last year. So yeah, like 10 years. You know, which is crazy. Like I'm so old.
But you're living the dream now.
But
so
now,
you're good.
Right. So yeah. So living outside Stanford and so unhappy. Like I was just depressed. Like I was like, I feel like I'm like living this job that I never really wanted to do. And long story short, like I basically saw this energy healer, like went through this whole
like rocks. Do you see these rocks also?
Yeah.
What are these called?
Crystals.
What are these?
That's a rose quartz.
Rose quartz. This is for the mood, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I got it on Amazon though. We're next. So embarrassing.
I feel the energy from here.
Good.
No, it's like so. Basically, she was an energy healer and like an empath and psychic. You know, she was like basically this like witch doctor woman, and she was like, "You need to do what you've always loved to do. It's gonna make you happier. You need to do what you've always loved." And I was like, maybe I should just start singing. You know, I'll just start singing. Started taking singing lessons.
And that was just like after work for fun?
Yeah, for funsies. And then I was like, oh, I started to like this. I started losing weight. I started working out, eating healthy again, not smoking 2 packs of cigarettes, quit smoking. And literally within like a couple years, you know, I'm like, I started when I was like 27, like getting back into it. And then a couple years later, you know, right before COVID, I was in a band doing like 4 or 5 gigs a week.
Oh, wow.
I was doing I was doing improv comedy. I started an improv at UCB. And
Nice.
Was doing some
Love
improv at
UCB.
Obviously, RIP kind of.
Yeah, yeah.
Hopefully it comes back at some point. But
Yeah, we'll see.
So I was doing improv at UCB. Loved improv. I had so much fun doing improv. And then started getting into stand-up. I took the Manhattan Comedy stand-up school.
Where is that? Again, I've heard of it.
So I don't know where they do it now, obviously after COVID, but technically it's through Gotham. It's like Gotham's stand-up class.
Is that, and you were doing it at Gotham Comedy Club?
Well, they do the rehearsals at one of the studios, I forget.
One of those right. It's like an office building, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was getting into stand-up. Maybe I had done 3 or 4 open mics for stand-up, and I was posting on Instagram, but nothing like what I'm doing now, obviously. And then COVID happened, and I was just about to do my first, because I write music too.
Okay, yeah.
So I was writing music and doing comedy songs.
I was just about to interrupt you and say right as COVID hit, I was trying out for the Lloyd teams for UCB.
Shut
Yeah. So I was
oh my God.
My audition, first of all, we had our 401, if you guys don't know about UCB,
Yeah.
Upright Citizens Brigade improv thing that they have in New York. You go 101, 201, 301, 401, and then if you're good enough after 401, you go and you're on a team that performs once a week at UCB. So we were supposed to have our show March 15th, and March 15th was the day everything shut down. So I was super fired up. I was okay, I want to change my career. This was a year before I actually fully jumped into comedy, but I was thinking okay, now I want to jump into comedy. And then as soon as the pandemic hit, we didn't have the show, didn't try out for Lloyd team, and then I ended up staying in my dad's company for another year. So it was kind of traumatic for me. But anyways,
God.
go ahead.
Yeah,
so what happened as soon as the pandemic happened?
Kind of. Well, So I basically I wanted to do a one-woman show. Then my kind of dream was if I could do, I didn't know
Singing,
really
stand-up,
yes, do it all.
improv.
Of course I'm I love singing still, of course, and I love doing comedy. So I'm I wish I could find a way to do both in a way and make it almost more of a variety show. I love Bo Burnham. Growing up, he was my huge inspiration. So I play piano. So it was so I do have some songs that I've written, and I booked, and this was right around the same time. It was early March, so I had booked
2020
to do a show at this Club Bonafide, which doesn't even exist anymore. It's on 60th Street, and to do my first one-woman show fits 50 people.
But how did you curate that though? Just by taking classes, how did you?
Yeah, taking
how'd you get
classes.
that?
I had a coach, and I had just had stuff that I had been writing for years, but never actually went and performed it. It was more kind of monologue type stories that I had written with I wouldn't say it was the best stand-up of all time, but I was I'll do these songs. I had 8 songs that I had written, comedic songs, and I was in between I'll kind of do a monologue to introduce that song, and in my way it's a stand-up bit of what I what I thought I was doing stand-up back then. So it was and I was working with a producer, and and it was we booked it May 1st, 2020, and I was holy fucking shit.
Well, that's also funny because March 15th, I feel everyone was oh, May 1st, the Corona will be gone.
Right.
Well, the show will still happen.
Totally. Well, that's what it was oh, that's kind of scary, but 2 weeks, and we'll be good. May 1st
we'll
is so
good.
far away.
Yeah.
We don't have to worry about that. Psych. So it was obviously, when it came to it, it was well, what the fuck am I going to do now?
Yeah.
And I literally, I have videos, of course, of me just sobbing and being I'm going to give up. This is obviously the universe is telling me that this isn't my path, and I should just stick with corporate America and just give this up. And
it sounds like we were in the exact same situation. Yeah, please. So for those of you who don't know or have never heard of Samantha Ramsdell, I guaranteed if you're watching this podcast, you've seen one of her TikToks for sure go viral. So let's talk about how you got into TikTok. Was that right around the pandemic? Because I do remember May 1st was probably the day that everyone found out about TikTok. It took me probably a year and a half later to really get into it. I was what is this dumb craze? My sister was doing dances on the screen or whatever. So I was confused. So how did you get into it?
So I remember too, early on, I was I already feel I was doing Instagram, I was trying to do Instagram, I should say. And I was I don't want to do tech, it's a whole other app. It is so young, all these kids, what am I going to do? And but then it started just taking off, and I started seeing these, of course, these people just like blowing up. And one of my friends had done some videos that went really well, and I was like, oh, well, I'll just start messing around.
Well,
on
was
it.
this person near kind of the same age as you?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
because
one of my friends was in her 30s.
that must have given you inspiration, because
Totally.
you're seeing all like the 18, 19-year-olds do dances with their shirts off and stuff.
Yes, and one of my friends who's in her 30s who also like does some comedy, and she was like, I started doing TikTok, and this video got 100,000 views. And I'm like, holy shit! Like I've never had an Instagram video that's gotten 100,000 views. So I literally the first video, if you go all the way back,
And do you post a lot?
I try to once a day.
Okay.
Yeah. There was a point when I was doing more, but now I'm at the point where I can do like one a day.
Yeah, amazing. I'm jealous because I'm doing 4 times a day, says Gary V. Gary, what's going on, bro? I don't have as many followers as Sam, but like that, I'm just trying to get to the point where, yes, I could hopefully post once a day.
Yeah.
And it gets a lot of traction.
There, like in the beginning, that was me too, just trying to figure it out. And it was like the first video, I literally just like, like I just like just to be stupid, to be like, what is this app? So I was like, just like,
and also correct me if I'm wrong, like TikTok, I mean, maybe none of your friends were initially following
none of my
you.
friends. Like,
yeah,
I had, like,
so like
that
you were cool
one
doing
friend.
that.
I had no follow, except my one friend. No one else was on it yet. And I was like kind of embarrassed to be on it too. Like that was the point too, where it was like, what the, like most people still didn't know what TikTok was. And it got 80,000 views.
This is your first video?
My first video ever with no followers.
And I
would
was like,
think that, holy shit.
Well, also, but sometimes they juice up those first few videos, right?
Of course.
Get you addicted?
Well, they do it to do 100%. 100%. So, but it does, you're like, oh shit. Like again, of course I was on Instagram and I'm like, I'm lucky if my videos now get like 200 views of my singing covers and stuff. I was posting like covers and like some, like my beginning sketches, which I look back now and I'm like, what the fuck is this? I was doing like cat voiceovers with
on
my
TikTok
cats
or
and
Instagram?
Instagram.
Okay.
And so I'm like, okay. So, I mean, really, you just got to watch it. Like, I remember I was like, all right, I got to figure out this app because if it's that easy to get 80,000 views.
How many followers did you get off that first video having 80,000 views,
like
if you remember?
2,000.
Okay.
Yeah, which still, I was like, that's almost as much as I have on Instagram.
At that point, yeah.
I was like, from one video that took me 5 seconds, literally. Like, I was like, who is watching this?
And it was probably the dynamic, the age group of people who probably started doing TikTok
like
loved
it's
it.
8-year-olds are like, oh my God, what is this?
This is hilarious.
Keep
scrolling.
So, so literally I was like, okay, I got to figure this out. Started watching, started figuring out there were trends, because that was the other thing too. Like trends are like, TikTok like really capitalized on being like a niche trends, like you can only know if you're on TikTok, it feels like. Now it's coming over to Instagram, but trying to figure it out. And really it was like, again, if you see my early stuff, it's like me doing covers, trying to do funny, skits, me trying to, do videos with my cats, with my dog. And then there was this one trend that was like, showing off something that not a lot of people know. And you go like this, and then you like reveal what it is, like on your face or something. And I did the big mouth, and that got like 200,000 views. And I was like, and I wasn't even like really trying for years. It was like, I have a big mouth and, like big lips. And it was like, and I put like big red lipstick on. And I was like, oh. So, so I started to see that trend of like people liked when I did the mouth thing. And, of course, you see all these creators. There's millions, I feel like, now of creators on there where it's like singers, comedians, everyone, chefs, like whatever you are, you can find a niche on TikTok. I was like, what do I have that's different? Like, what do I have that no one else does that I can use like to my best ability? I was like, well, I do have a really big mouth.
Yes.
So anytime, first it would start with trends, and like anytime a filter, like it needed like a big mouth filter, I would just not put a filter on and some of those videos would just hit, and I first would start to get like my first million view. And then really when it started to blow up was my first like super viral video that got 80 million views. It was in October of 2020.
Jesus.
And it was, I don't know if you were on TikTok.
October of 2020. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
it was like later in 2020. I'm like just starting to grow. I was just about like having like 200,000 followers, And I did a video. And if you were on TikTok at the time, you'll remember is that I want to see your cheeks glow red. red. Do you remember that one?
No, I don't. To be honest, I don't.
Okay, well, you'll see.
I also wasn't on TikTok probably at that time.
I was gonna say it was still in just in the early phase.
I must have got on TikTok
Just
the beginning of 2021, something like that.
Yeah. And it was a lip sync, and at the end, like, I made my mouth as big, like I was like eating the camera basically, and it blew up. I think I gained like 200,000 followers overnight.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just from one post.
From that one video.
So discovering that you having this big mouth, having a niche.
Yep.
Where did it take off from there? Because
Well,
now you're visiting restaurants, you're visiting sandwich shops, and you're doing a lot with that.
Well, it's like you follow what people like, like it was like, I see what video does well, figure out how to do it again, so it was like, and responding, like the other thing was responding to comments, like that always did really well for me because people, of course, then after that video and my, people saw the mouth, the gape, had all these questions like, okay, if your mouth is that big, how do you eat an apple? If your mouth is that big, like how do you,
and you would do videos on responding to these?
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Smart.
So that was like one of the infamous like donut videos, someone was like, if your mouth is so big, how do you eat a donut? And I'd be like, oh, one bite and like 30 million views. And I'm like, holy shit.
So it just kept progressing.
Yes, and then I'd see more comments of like, if your mouth is so big, like, go, can you eat a sandwich in one bite?
Yes.
And then the sandwich thing, Subway, like I did a whole Subway sandwich in one bite, and that too got like 50 million views.
6 inches or a foot long?
6 inches.
Okay. Either way, impressive.
Either way. Right. Can you imagine? Literally. What's that movie that everyone always brings up that he eats the Subway sandwich in one bite? They're like the aliens. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Should we look it up?
I forget what it's called. Whoever's listening and knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, put it in the comments.
But it's like, it's this movie where like the aliens come down and he's at the dentist's office, they have the huge mouths. And one of them's like the scenes is he at the dentist's office, he opens his mouth. Aliens with huge mouth.
That's what I should say. Oh my God. I put up Subway sandwich, one bite, and the first video that comes up is a video of you. Woman with the world's largest mouth eats entire, that is nuts.
That is so
Eats entire,
funny.
Hold on.
No, literally if you type in
Eats
mouth.
entire portion of McDonald's fries in one bite. Stop. Look at that. That's hilarious.
Yeah, that was
I'm showing the camera.
Crazy.
You guys can't really see it there. It's kind of small, but I'm zooming in. Okay, so I mean, this is...
anyways, there's a movie, so it just started and it would just roll. And I'm like, well, if you can't beat them, join them. And just leaned into it. And then I was like, well, there's a way that I can make this my brand because it's like, mouth is used for a lot of things.
Correct.
So I'm like, it's used for singing, it's used for my comedy. So like, this big mouth brand, like actually like kind of works for me because I am just like a weird kind of quirky person anyway.
Weird
so,
and
like,
proud.
Yes,
that's your podcast.
That's my podcast
Yes.
too. Yeah. So I kind of leaned into this whole, weird vibe. And and literally, it was within that year, I think at the end of 2020, I'd hit 1 million. And then now I'm at 3 million,
wow,
which is
great.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It just, it's hard to believe that they're real.
Well, do you find that you're getting a lot of traction from the TikTok spilling over into the comedy game and comedy stuff? Yeah,
well, obviously it's a whole different ball game. I think a lot of people look at it, and I think a lot of even comedians, stand-up comedians, are like, okay, these TikTok losers are trying to come up and like do stand-up, which like stand-up is an art, and it's something you also have to do 1 million times in order to get good at it. It's like, and like anything, like a lot of things, but it's definitely helped with at least having an audience and obviously being able to like have venues that if, I went to Laugh Boston and was like, hey, if I didn't have any followers and we're like, hey, I've been doing comedy for, technically since the end of the pandemic, so like 1.5 years, can I have a show? Can I headline a show? They would have been like,
yeah, totally. No. And it's just a lot easier when you have like the backing behind you and the support.
Yes. And like, I'm just, having a good community that's, I'm so grateful to be like, I have a community that supports and like comes out to the shows and, wants to see me. Like, it's just, it's cool. It's crazy when you think about it. You take a second and think about it, be like, that is wild. Like, you know, like people like watch me. Even when people come up to me on the streets, I'm like, oh my God, people watch my
Love
videos.
that. Also, when you were at the Ted Jones comedy show a couple weeks ago, and one of the comics on the show, Josh Adam Myers, I believe, he's like, I've seen you on TikTok before.
Yeah.
So you get that a lot.
Yeah, and you know what is funny? You're like, oh yeah, I forget. You know, like I'll just be walking down the street in my own world, and someone will say something. I'm like, oh shit, yeah, I forgot. Like I'm like on TikTok. Basically, I mean, it's given me an amazing audience and like ability to like kind of skip. You know, like every comedian's like, you got to skip like so much of some of the bullshit. Like, you know, like most comedians who are doing stand-up before social media, like you would just have to go to open mics. Like,
it takes years.
Years and years. Like some people are like literally 10 years before I felt confident to headline a show, you know, before I was headlining or even having my own show. You know, 5 years of going to open mics, going to shows, bopping around, doing 7-minute sets.
Yep.
5 nights, you know, 5 times a night, you know, bopping from club to club. So, you know, I definitely have done that. You know, and of course I still need to put in the work and I still need to practice. That's why a lot of the times, you know, I'm trying to go to as many shows as I can because I know I need to practice too and just keep doing it over and over again. So I do still feel like, you know, I need to put in the work to some degree and keep doing it. But
when did you find out that you had the biggest mouth in the world? And do you actually have the full biggest mouth in the world?
Yeah. So what happened also, you know, again from TikTok, it was like, all, you know, I joke that it's like the TikTok children of America. All my comments would be like, if your mouth's so big, do you have the Guinness World Record? Like, you got to talk to Guinness. People would tag Guinness in all my videos. And Guinness has a pretty big social media presence. They're really good. And they emailed me. Literally emailed me and were like, we've seen your work. Like what we see.
Yeah.
And they were like, send us, here's like everything to apply. Like, send us your measurements, and they basically sent me a list of like everything that they needed for me, all the qualifications they needed me to send. And at the end of the day, and a couple months later, back and forth, they were like, they came out, we did the measurements, went to a dentist, the official like, you know, officiant of Guinness World Records was there, and they were like, all right, you got the record. So I technically have, the title is largest mouth gape in the world for a female.
What does that mean? Like GAPE, you keep referring to that.
Because, well, first of all, I think it's the word itself is just like hilarious.
It is a good word. I'll give you that.
But I just like when I found that out, like when Guinness was like, no, it's not. Okay, I had to ask them to put mouth in there. It used to just be largest gape.
Oh my gosh, and that's like,
and I'm like,
not
that
specific
is the
enough.
Funniest thing I've ever.
Yeah, like what does that even mean?
You put mouth because, like, apparently, like they're. I don't know. It was like...
Sorry, it's my pops. Go ahead.
No worries. Basically, it was like, you know, it's like not the mouth itself. It's the area within the mouth. So they're like specifying it's like the gape, the area of the gape that's really big. I don't know. But anyways, but they had gape in it. And I was like, they're like, yeah, we should change that or put mouth in there. And I was like, well, just keep the gape. Like make it mouth
When
gape.
did this happen?
This was July of 2021.
Okay, and do you feel like you've gotten more traction from that?
Definitely. I mean, not as big as like, you know, I don't think I got like hundreds of thousands of followers from it, but I think more too just to say that, you know, to be like, oh, she's got the Guinness World Record. Like I feel like I got a lot of press. Like I definitely got like a ton of press around that time, like CNN, like I was on CNN.
Oh my God, amazing.
You know, like I was on Daily News, did the Ellen show.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it was like, it was more just like a press, like, you know.
Moving forward, what do you look to do? Just headline more? Get more involved in New York City clubs?
Yeah,
What does it
like
look
try and just obviously keep working and practicing on my show, working on get it to a spot where I can, you know, do more shows in New York City.
Do you still want to do a one-woman show?
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm trying to build on. And if you
Great.
do, if you ever come to my shows, like even at Laugh Boston, obviously we're, you know, co-headlining with Shannon, but if you come to one of my shows, like I'm doing one in Philly on July 10th. So if you're in Philly at City Winery.
And what is it? Is it your website that we can
Yeah,
find
they
that
can
on?
go to my website or, you know, just go to my Instagram too, you know, my link in my bio. But also on my website, SamanthaRamsdell.com. But I do a little bit, you know, it's like I do some stand-up, I do some original comedy songs, I do like some interactive stuff with the audience. I obviously bring my boyfriend James up. We do a whole thing. because people love, if you've seen my TikTok or my Instagram, you've seen my boyfriend James loves to, well, actually, he doesn't love. I love bringing him into He would probably be fine without it. So it's a whole, we have fun. It's a fun show.
So how many shows do you have lined up, I guess, through the summer?
I think I have like 10 headlining shows.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
And then in between, you're trying to get on shows
trying
here.
to do like stand up New York is good to me. So
Nice.
I showed there tomorrow night.
Great. Just you, or you're on the lineup?
I'm on the lineup.
Okay.
Yeah,
By the way,
yeah.
Sam is doing Comedy Night with Ted Jones.
Yes.
Saturday, May 28th,
Yes.
9 p.m. at the Pit, NYC.
Oh, it's the Pit.
The Pit,
That's
NYC.
right.
So
Yes.
up in Chelsea on like 29th
Yeah.
Street. So it should be
Yes.
super fun. I'm
Yes.
pumped for that.
Yes,
I
it's a cool
haven't done that venue yet.
Yeah, that's
so it'll be
cool.
great. So if you guys are interested, check the
Yes.
link in this
Come
YouTube video. It'll be
check it out.
amazing.
That'll be so fun.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah.
So you have 10 shows lined up through the
Yes.
end of summer, and what from there?
I mean,
I know it's tough to
Well, I love,
make
I
things.
do love traveling.
Yeah.
And love doing the food stuff. Like, obviously, if you see, it's the
Talk more
the
about that. Talk more about that.
Well, of course, like having the big mouth, doing the one bite thing, evolutionized to like people recommending big foods for me to try.
Yeah, and then meeting up with the food god, and then Sebastian Maniscalco, stuff like that.
So it's also opened up. It's everyone loves food. Like, food is one of those things where it's like it's the least offensive thing, because it's like, who doesn't love food? I mean, people still find a way to get offended in some way, shape, or form.
Too many bites.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I hate chicken. It's like, you chicken killer. But people love food. I love food. Like the only thing I spend my money on is food. Like, my bank account is a food diary, because it's just like that's all I spend my money on. And I've always loved food, so it's fun to be able to like find big foods, and obviously I just love food in general. But
are restaurants reaching out to you now?
yeah.
Oh,
well, and especially
wow.
ones that have like did a lot of sandwiches, so I was doing like a sandwich Saturday because I kept getting so many sandwiches to try, because that's like a big fun food. I love sandwiches. Sandwiches are my favorite food, and people kept recommending places, especially like in this area. It's like the sandwich capital of the world.
Well,
Subs.
question: what if you did like a one bite of the sandwich and started rating sandwiches?
Well,
something
that's what
like
I've been
that.
doing. Well, I rated them in the beginning. I did start to rate them, but it's so hard to rate sandwiches.
Especially when they're different,
When they're
different
all different, like a
breads.
fried chicken sandwich compared to like a Philly cheesesteak. It's like, how do you compare them? I was thinking maybe at some point, like, I rate just the Philly cheesesteaks.
Yeah. Do you have like
chicken cutlet?
Do you have a favorite sandwich that could potentially
I
help?
get that sandwich. I get that question. Well, my favorite, like my go-to, I'm a turkey BLT girl. I know you're vegan, but like I love bacon, turkey, avocado.
I think like a lot of places and delis and sandwich places would have that on the menu.
Oh,
like
they
that
do.
would be their
They do.
go-to sandwich.
Yeah, but that's not everyone's favorite sandwich. Like I feel like a lot of people are like I ordered a turkey sandwich the other day, and they're like, ew, why'd you order turkey?
Like when Dave Portnoy does the cheese pizza, it's very vague. Like everyone loves cheese pizza.
Right. Like if I were to go to a sandwich, I'd do like an Italian combo. I feel like an Italian here is really popular. Like cold cuts, like salami, type of thing. But it's like, then there's only so many you can do, So at some point I've probably done like over 80 sandwiches. Like, I want to put them on my website and like maybe give like pros and cons of it.
Yeah, I like that.
Or some way to filter it.
Or maybe you just allow the restaurant or sandwich shop to be like, this is our favorite sandwich. You rate it.
And that's what
Something
I try.
like that.
That's also, I do try to do that. It's always so hard too, because a lot of people, there are sandwich shops who could care less about social media. Like when I come in, like literally I went to this place in the middle of Connecticut, and they were like, I don't like.
Well, why do they reach out to you then?
Oh no, well, some of them don't. Like like I really will just go because people are like, you really need to go to this.
Yeah.
Like,
people will tell you, so you're not you're not just exclusively going when restaurants ask you.
No,
but I'm sure restaurants ask you all the time.
Yes, but a lot of them, like, they just aren't big enough. I'm like, get that,
Yeah, get your game
step
up.
it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk.
So what's your favorite sandwich shop in Connecticut then?
So this place, I don't know if you saw recently, like 2 weeks ago, I went to the spot called Carbone's, and it's literally in Torrington, Connecticut.
I think I remember this.
It's like on the Massachusetts line, which is like middle of nowhere, Connecticut. And they don't even have social media, the spot, which like I kind of loved. And they call them grinders, which I also think is an interesting topic of debate. Like what people call a sub versus a grinder versus
Or
a
hoagie.
roll or a hoagie. There's all these names for it. but they call it Grinder, and it was 16 inches, and it must have weighed 10 pounds. Like, it was ginormous. And if you go on my Instagram or TikTok, you'll see it. Because that was the one I did the turkey of, because I was like, ooh, this is huge. If I'm going to do this big, I'll do one that I love.
Yeah.
People are like, ew, turkey.
How do you feel social media has changed you then? Obviously for the greater, but like it transferred over to your Instagram a little bit as well.
Yes,
How did you transfer that?
Luckily, I know most people on Instagram won't agree, but Reels, when they announced Reels on Instagram, that's when my Instagram popped off, because I could just literally copy paste onto Instagram. It takes no extra work for me, and easy recyclable content that for people who aren't on TikTok, or I feel like it is just like a little bit of a different audience on Instagram, who I have on Instagram versus it's a little bit older. And, I feel like it's like they want more of the comedy stuff, like a little bit more. They love more of the James stuff and interactive versus TikTok. Like, again, I think like 30% of my audience is under 18. So if a third of your audience is in high school, like, they're going to love that.
The funny stuff.
You're right. The real funny stuff. So it's just, I've kind of learned the differences between them. But, just to have even 150 on Instagram is amazing, too. Like, never did I ever think.
150,000. Do you still put the same TikToks and like on Instagram Reels? Do you still kind of keep it the same?
Like, I kind of almost use TikTok as like a trial board. I'll put stuff out there. If it does well, then I'll put it on Instagram. And especially like if it goes along, like, again, like, people on Instagram can be everyone can be mean, but like, it's, they're all mean. But I feel like sometimes people get annoyed with the mouth stuff on Instagram where they're more accepting of it on TikTok.
Has anyone reached out to you that you've been like, what? This person follows me?
Oh, Jordan Sparks follows me.
Okay.
Who's that? Like
Tell me so everyone no air. That song. Can't live, can't breathe with no air. That's it. Time for you when you start singing with me. No air, no air. Oh, there you go. All right, we got that for free. Amazing.
Stunning.
So Jordan Sparks.
Who else?
American Idol, correct? Right?
Yeah, she was on American Idol, but I loved her. I was a huge American Idol girly. Like, musical theater was my thing.
Clay Aiken was my cousin for like 2 years.
What?
Not by blood. So he was married to one of my third cousin's wife. And then they got divorced. So I'm no longer related to Clay Aiken. But it was fresh while it lasted.
What's he up to these days?
I don't know.
Like,
Clay, why don't you shoot into the podcast, man? He comes on next episode. I don't know what he's doing. But like Ruben Studdard, what's he doing? There's really only a handful of American Idol people that are still doing stuff.
Yeah.
Kelly Clarkson just got a huge divorce. You see that? She was amazing. I saw her at Jingle Ball one time, and the whole time she's like, "Oh, I can't believe it's happening to me." And she's literally the whole time waving. Some people wait a lifetime for a moment like these. Yeah, so she was great. Miss Independent.
Oh, yeah,
so like the bangers.
Classic bangers.
But like she was really the only American Idol that
Carrie
wanted to
Underwood.
do it. And Carrie Underwood. Jesus, take the wheel. Any guys from that show do well? Chris Daughtry?
I was just going to say Chris Daughtry.
Is he in a band now?
Where did he go, though? No. I feel like I saw him, and then there was another guy, too, who I just saw who was, like, on TikTok. It's so funny. You see some of these, like, artists from, like, 10 years ago. You're like, where the fuck did that person go?
Like, Mike Posner had a great couple years, and now I see him on TikTok. He's, like, going to the Arctic Circle, like, climbing Mount Everest. Keep it going, Mike Posner. I love your songs. But yeah, I mean, you see everyone on TikTok.
You'll see on TikTok. You're like, oh shit.
And your presence is so much bigger than a lot of these celebs, which is crazy.
It's like sometimes I'll see some celebrities and I'm like, oh my god, it's really wild that like, yeah, like if who was it who I saw the other day? There was like a Disney star, and I was like, oh shit, I used to be obsessed with
like Ashley Tisdale. Was it her? She was in High School Musical.
Yeah, I think it was Ashley Tisdale. And we have like.
She went to my school, by the way. My high school. So random.
I do love her.
Yeah. She's older than me, so I didn't know her, but I had like a lot of. I went to a professional children's school.
You did?
Yeah, you know professional children's school?
I didn't
you know of it?
Yeah.
Okay, so school for actors, singers, dancers, models, athletes, whatever.
I didn't know
and the reason I went there was so, like, if I needed to go to Florida to play in a tennis tournament on Friday morning, it was my match or something, I'd leave Thursday night, and then the school would send me homework, so I'd do the homework, and then I'd take the test when I got back. So it was just basically like a lenient schedule.
It's in New York City,
yeah,
right?
60th between Columbus and Amsterdam.
What? You went there your whole life?
No, I went there my sophomore, junior, and senior year of high school.
Wow.
How do you know of that school, though? I'm impressed you know it.
Like actors and singers, like if you wanted to be like on Broad, like
yeah. Oh my God,
next,
so
like,
much of that. So I know a lot of, I guess, people
Too
who are
funny.
in the acting industry,
Yes, that
models,
makes
singers, some dancers,
Yeah.
ballerinas. There are a lot of ballerinas and ballerinos that go there, which is crazy because like that's one of the professions that even if you do insanely well, they sign you to, and I'm not sure what it's called, but I mean, I guess like a residency,
Yeah.
some form of that where they'll have you perform 5 days a week, the matinees, like for the Nutcracker.
Yeah.
So, but those jobs, I mean, you really don't get paid anything. But like those people are working some of the hardest. So
Wasn't
it's
there
crazy.
like a MTV show about that school too at one point? I feel
No,
like
maybe it was
there's, like,
LaGuardia or PPA.
Oh, maybe yeah. That was there's a couple.
LaGuardia.
Yeah.
The MTV show, but
Oh my
yeah,
God, I
people
wanted to go there
like
so bad.
Scarlett
I'm so
Johansson,
jealous.
Alex Daddario, and like a bunch of people who were like there when I was there. But
That is crazy.
yeah, it was funny.
So cool. So like,
Yeah, so I was one of the only athletes there. There were a few tennis
I was
players,
gonna ask. So you were there for tennis.
but I was like by far the least serious tennis player, and I went there just because I wanted to get more serious about tennis, and I ended up playing tennis at UConn. Which do you know? Or
well,
you know,
I
went to
remember. I know
UConn.
you had played in college because I remember Hannah was talking about she played in college.
Yeah.
Sure, you guys were both talking about that.
So
but
that's I went to UConn and
you
then
played
came
all
back to
through
New York.
college?
And I played 2.5 years
That's a
before
lot.
stopping. So it was a point where there was a point where I was like, okay, this is taking up 20 hours a week, and then we're also traveling.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And
of work.
I'm not getting what I want to get out of this. We weren't like top in Division One. It was still fun to play, but it was a lot of work. And then from that point, like after year 2.5, I had so much more time. I was taking improv classes at UConn,
Yep.
taking acting classes, and I wrote a movie script, like an 118-page
Cool.
movie script about, the guy who was drafted second behind Peyton Manning in the 1998 NFL draft. And his life turned into shambles. He ended up in jail, drug problems. So I wrote like a fictitious movie script about him. And like,
Cool.
if anyone wants to read it, you hit my line,
Yeah.
TEDJonesWorld@gmail.com. But that took me years to do. And I credit me not being on the tennis team, having that extra amount of time to, I probably wrote 100 pages in a year and a half. And then within like the last 3 years, I've polished up and,
What was your
it's ready
major?
for somebody to read journalism. So I had my own show at UConn on UCTV.
No
I was a
way.
talking head with like my little blazer on. I ditched the blazer now because I can't do a freaking tie.
Yeah, no,
That's
no,
also
no,
a bit I have. I won't do it right now. But you come to Ted Jones Comedy Show
Yes.
or Comedy Night with Ted Jones, you hear the bit about the tie and how I don't know how to do a tie. The tie's tough.
Ties are
sometimes.
tough.
But yeah, it was so I've been doing this kind of talking to the camera thing for a long time, and this
I
is
love it.
what I love
Makes
doing,
sense.
and also the vlogs and
It all
the
makes
comedy
sense.
shows. So.
Yep. It all comes together.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
that is so cool.
Yeah. So I had a weird childhood in growing up in Manhattan, going to a specialized school.
Do you still play
and then
tennis
coming
now?
back?
You
Yeah.
just, like, go hit
I mean, the
courts?
only person that I've played with in the last, I'd say like 8 months has been my dad when we played one time in Florida, and Hannah I've played with
I was
like
gonna ask if
like
you
3
played Hannah.
times. Yeah. When she
I would like to watch that.
or the other day we were talking about how we got to get back on the tennis courts just because in New York when it's nice out it's amazing to play tennis.
I'm sure.
Not when it's like 95 degrees in the summer, but like
No,
a day like today would be perfect.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Get that. Yeah, the tennis bug.
Yeah, so I'm excited.
Cool.
So this summer you got shows lined up.
Yep.
Where can we find you more specifically though?
Yes.
Where do you want people to follow you?
So obviously, TikTok, Instagram are my big social media platforms.
And they're
So
both
if you-
Samantha Ramsdell.
Sam Ramsdell. Yeah, if you look up or if you just type in Big Gabe,
We're
you'll
putting
find
it right here. We're putting it right here. You guys see
Big
that?
Mouth. Type in Big Mouth and I will come
So
up.
just
Big
literally
Mouth
just
Subway.
type in Big Mouth anything to Google. I'm sure you'll find that was crazy. I typed in Big Mouth Subway.
No, literally.
Siri must have heard you.
Siri knows. Siri knows what's up. Sam Ramsdell 5 is technically my handle.
Oh, because there's probably 4 other people at least that have the same name as you.
At least, yeah. And 5, I used to play ice hockey. So you
Oh,
were
that's a
tennis,
good goalie
I
number.
played ice hockey. And 5 was my...
Were you a goalie?
I wasn't. I was a right wing. But
Okay.
I also love that there's 5 points in a star. And I wanted to be a
Are you Jewish?
No.
Oh, that would have been a
wish.
good touch.
That would've been way cooler.
Yeah.
So anyway, so Sam Ramsdell 5, Instagram and TikTok. And then SamanthaRamsdell.com for tickets, or on my Instagram too. You can find tickets to shows. And Weird and Proud, if you like weird shit.
Yeah, please.
If you're into weird stuff, Weird and Proud podcast.
And we can listen to that Spotify, Apple Podcasts,
Yep, all the
YouTube.
places. YouTube, yep. I need to work on my YouTube. I need to get better at it. You know,
That's an interesting thing to say from a person who's so successful on social media
it's a
like
lot of
you.
long form. You know, it's longer form, and I'm so good. I've almost like gotten selfish at like under 30 seconds. I'm like, oh, I can edit this quick, get it out. You know, like I need to be better at being patient to like sit down and like it takes a long time. Like I don't think people know like how much time it takes. I don't think anyone knows how long it takes to edit all of it. It's like it's a lot of time.
Yeah, you gotta love it. But also, I feel like your sketches could do very well on YouTube.
Yeah,
if you've tried that.
Sometimes I just forget. Like by the time I upload it to TikTok and then Instagram,
Yes.
I'm like, but
about a short or whatever.
The shorts. I need to get better. That's something I just need to remind myself to keep doing. But yeah, I am on YouTube too.
All right, cool. Sam, thank you so much
good to see
for
you,
coming on the
as
podcast. This was really great. And guys,
course.
come to Comedy Night with
Yes.
Ted Jones. Check the link in this YouTube video. You'll see Sam there. And it's going to be an amazing time. Sam, you were amazing.
Thank
guys,
you so much.
I'll see you freaking Monday or
See you when
Thursday,
I see
depending
ya.
on whenever we drop this. All right? Peace.